Hi, everybody, and welcome. This is the Apostate Prophet. I hope everyone is having a fantastic day. I have a very special guest with me today, somebody that I have been following on Twitter or X for a while and whose posts I really like, an Iranian ex-Muslim woman by the name of Sana Ebrahimi. Sana, how are you doing?
Good. I'm very glad that I have the opportunity to talk to you. I've been also following you as well. I really like your content. Um, and yeah, I'm happy to be here and talk to you. Thank you for inviting me.
Very, very welcome, and thank you so much for joining. It's a great pleasure. Um, so I recently started engaging with your account, well, with your profile on X, especially since October 7, where things got really intense and are still intense. I did notice you before, I think, but it was like vaguely following you and your activism. As far as I know, you are an ex-Muslim who also grew up in Iran, right?
Yes, correct. So I was born and raised in Iran until like 5 years ago. I was in Iran. So I'm very recent out of the country.
Oh, that's really just 5 years ago?
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I moved to the States in 2019.
Wow.
So my views and my perception of Iran and what's happening there is very recent.
Interesting, interesting. So, because I talked to a lot of people, Iranian ex-Muslims who were born there and who grew up there and who came to the West, I don't know, decades ago, ages ago. But
Yeah.
for you, it's quite recent. This is interesting. I want to get into that. So, we will talk about the history of Iran. We will talk about how it was in the past and where it is headed. But how is it right now? I mean, it's the last time you were there. What is the situation in Iran? What is it like?
So in Iran, well, the government is basically a dictatorship. It's called Islamic Republic. We are actually very close to that sham election that goes on every 4 years, but it's a dictatorship ruled by the supreme leader of Iran, a cleric, Khamenei, and everything is under his direct order. So every election and everything is just for a show, a theatrical move to just gain legitimacy among people. And then mostly it's just to show it to the world that, oh, we are this legitimate government and people actually choose us every 4 years. Um, but there is no freedom of speech, there is no human rights. Women are much more like slaves, second class citizens. But this is not limited to women. Men are also the target of this oppression. Um, no one can really speak out, even as much as just a post online. Recently, a writer got arrested for commenting a period under the post of the supreme leader of Iran, Khamenei, that got more likes and shares than his original post.
Wow.
The economy is collapsing. There's a lot of corruption. There's a lot of stealing. Everything that you can think of, really. Yeah, that's happening in Iran, and that's been happening for the past 45 years since their beginning. And it's just getting worse. The thing is, when I left the country, the economy was not doing as bad as it is doing here, but still very bad. Um, the currency was a little bit more valuable than it is now. But the oppression and everything that you see going on right now is nothing new. It's been going on for decades. It's just a matter of what makes it to the international media and
Mhm.
what makes it out more. Because, there is no free media in Iran. Every broadcasting channel, every news station, everything is run by the government. There is nothing independent, really. And all the social medias that you can think of, they are all banned. I think among the messenger platforms, there is just WhatsApp that is not banned. That was also banned for a period of time during the shutdown of internet in I think it was 2019, and then happened a couple times afterwards. So yeah, they are very protective of what information gets out of the country, what makes it to the international media. That is why the work of individuals like myself, which is just simply talking about what we've seen and what we've experienced and what people are experiencing there, is very important for them. And it's kind of a threat for them because we are basically showing the sides of things that they are trying to suppress. They're trying to hide and cover a lot. Yeah.
What about so you said you came in 2019. That means you were still in Iran when the whole when the initial 2017, I think the anti-hijab protests started breaking out. Did you experience that very much? Did you see the impacts of it?
Oh, yeah. So the anti-hijab protest actually started way long ago, maybe a couple years after the revolution happened in 1979, because initially what Khomeini, who was the leader of the revolution, promised the people was the freedom of belief, the freedom of act. Like, oh, you're free to be whoever you want to be. It's just that we want to basically bring this Islamic values back to the country, but we're not going to be in power. We are not going to rule the country. This is not our job. We are not politicians. We are just clerics who wants to basically recover some human values. But as a woman, if you want to just live the way you are living now, it's okay. Like, you can wear whatever you want to wear. So short after the revolution, when they gained power and they changed these rules and everything, and they started enforcing hijab rules, these protests started breaking out, but it was suppressed, and sometimes with like physical force by pressing like security forces, and sometimes with just kind of very empty promises. And the morality police that you see right now in Iran is the continuation of an entity that started back then. So there were these morality polices, early 80s. They started working, they started enforcing these rules. If they would see like a man and woman walking in the streets together, they would stop them, make sure they are married. If they're not married, they'll be arrested. They will get lashed. They would arrest women. There were these independent forces who were actually connected to this body, this governing body of IRGC, that would beat women, would like cut women where they were showing skin, like on their legs. And yeah, that was going on then. But of course, as I grew up, there were breakouts that I witnessed. And you would see like after each breakout, the just implementation of these forces was different, would be more strict. They would tighten the restrictions and everything after each breakout. And it is still going on to this day. The movements that I witnessed when I was in Iran, the biggest one was the Green Movement. I think it was how many years before I leave the country? I left the country in 2019. And this happened in 2009,
Oh,
2008, 2009. That was what I witnessed. And then later each year, like 2017, 2016, 2019, which was after I left the country. The
mhm.
2019 was breakout. The big one was a couple months after I left the country. That was when, for the first time, was blackout. Like
Oh,
the government literally shut down the internet just to freely kill people. And they killed
and
like 15,000 people in 3 days.
do you see that, in your opinion, is the society, so are the people of Iran going more and more towards, in higher numbers, wanting more freedom and being against the government? So is this sentiment growing?
Oh, yeah, very much. The interesting thing about people in Iran is their difference with the neighboring countries. Um, well, after the revolution, when Khomeini took power and the Islamic clerics took power, they had this cultural revolution in which they fired every university professor, school teachers, everyone that did not align with the Islamic Republic and strict Islamic values, and they brought their own people, basically to change the culture and make it Islamic. So
Mhm.
nothing about the Persian culture, nothing about Persian values, but going back to Islamic values, which is very much against our culture. Um, so after that, people started more resisting. The more they were forcing us into things, people started more resisting. I mean, keeping the culture alive, holding on to these values, and basically going against Islamic values. And we see that happening more and more as the years go by. So maybe in the beginning, it was not as fast growing and as popular, but right now you see this deep rage and hate against Islam,
Mhm.
not only Islamic Republic, against Islam that is enforced by the Islamic Republic among Iranians more than ever.
So my
Even
go ahead.
go ahead.
Continue.
Yeah, even like among Muslim families, a lot of things changed. Their views changed. Years and years go by, and they see more oppression by this Islamic government, and their views of Islam have changed. I've seen these people, I've met these people who were very much pro these Islamic values, and their views changed drastically by witnessing what they witnessed in Iran.
So we see a lot of this, we see a lot of narratives that focus on this idea at the moment, especially so among those who are critical of the Iranian Islamic regime, especially among the Iranian diaspora and others. A lot of people are saying that the people of Iran don't seem to really follow Islam or believe in Islam anymore or respect Islam anymore, and more and more people are totally secular and indeed, in fact, anti-Islam and anti-theocracy and all of that. Would you say that that narrative is generally true? That there is a huge population in Iran that is against an Islamic government and against Islamic values?
Yes, very much. That population is growing every day. Um, and the reason is that they've seen the truth of an Islamic government, an Islamic governing body. So you read all of these, growing up, I was born and raised into a Muslim family, not even, there are some Muslim families that are Muslim by name, but they are not very strictly practicing.
Yeah.
My family was a practicing Muslim family and is to this day. They are Muslim. They wear hijab. They like practice um, every Islamic practice that people do around the world. Um, so that consider that growing up, I heard a lot of excuses for things that I would question about Islam. Like, oh, why is this rule like that? Like, why does my father or my guardian owns me? Like, can kill me based on Islamic rules and nothing would happen because they brought me into this world, right? Why is that the reason? They would bring excuses, they would explain, they would show interpretation. Or if I would question text of Quran about like, oh, so like women are half men, women can be taken as like hostage and used as sex slaves
Sex slave, yeah.
after a war by Muslims. So why is that? What they would bring interpretation? Oh, that was for that time, but is not like it doesn't work like that. They would bring different interpretation, making it cute, making it look more like today's value. But then Islamic Republic showed another level, showed them that no, these are actual things that are practiced. We see that by ISIS as well. We see that by groups like Houthis as well. Like these are not old values. These are values that are practiced today, to this day, and we see the more and the more social media is available to people. People are seeing it more. It's not that it's happening more. It's that people are getting to see it now.
Yeah.
What they used to not see and miss. So yeah, that people are against Islamic values. Even the Muslim families who practice Islam are against the Islamic government.
Mm-hmm.
So there is this big population of Muslims actually in Iran that are practicing Muslims, but they don't believe in an Islamic government that governs people and enforces these rules like that.
Growing up as a Muslim person in Iran, let's think about being a child in Iran or being an early teenager, learning all of the values that you learn about your country and your nation and so on in school. How is it in Iran? Are you from a very early age indoctrinated into being like putting the Islamic revolution, the Islamic Republic above everything else and basically dedicating your life to it? What are some of the propaganda things that you are taught as a child?
So being born in a Muslim country is one story, and then being born in a Muslim family in a Muslim country is a whole different level, because it's not only the government that is enforcing some beliefs and rules on you, it's also a Muslim family that is now in your private space, in your private life, and you can barely hide anything from, and they are also enforcing some rules. But being born in a Muslim country like Iran, I would say, first of all, we start practicing Islam in very early age. For example, we start elementary school having a dress code for girls, having to follow a dress code, wearing hijab, but then Muslim families also send their kids to in more strict schools that enforce like another level of dress code, like wear hijab, more strict. You have to wear this like abaya and like all of that together. It's not that other schools don't have to. It's just like different levels, you know. And if you don't follow a dress code in Iran, they will kick you out of every institution that you're in. You cannot enter certain institutions, certain buildings, if you are not following a dress code. So that starts at 7 years old. And then moving to like 9 years old, which is the age of puberty in Islam, you start fasting, you start praying. And then the school that is like basically a smaller scale governing body at that age in your life, it's tracking if you are praying. Like I was being tracked by principals, by teachers, if I'm praying every day at school with other students.
What if you don't pray?
I never went on a school trip because I did not want to pray at school. I was praying at home. I just did not want to pray at school. And because of that, I was never taken. That was a award, that was a prize that was given to those selected students who follow those values, who
Mhm.
practice everything as these institutions want. So I was not one of them. And I started seeing this discrimination since very early age. And this was not enforced like by my family at that age, but I would see like, oh, they also don't go against it. Like they don't really argue that. They don't complain. They just observe. They are
Mhm.
not doing it, but they don't
So when you
observe.
would
They don't say anything.
when you would observe Islamic practices at that age, you would get rewarded. Um, um, but if you don't practice them, then you will just be left out. But would you also get
Mhm.
any kinds of like I don't know, punishments or being reprimanded or things like that?
Oh yeah, if you don't, for example, if you dress a certain way, if I had like if you have nail polish, you will get expelled, you will get suspended from school. If you like show your hair, you would get reprimanded. They would eliminate you from certain classes. Yeah, there was punishment as well, but at best, if you didn't go against any rules, uh, you would just get left out of certain things, and because you didn't want to practice those things the way they wanted. It doesn't matter if you're a straight A student. I was a straight A student. I was the best student at my school, but still I would be reprimanded again and over again just for not following it the exact same way I wanted to.
Hmm.
Um, and then there is this very strong and ongoing everyday indoctrination at school by teachers, by textbook. Um, like I've shown some examples of the textbook that we had that would basically show any other group other than Muslims is evil
Yeah.
in different levels. Well, Jews are this like, oh wow, they are the different level of evil, but then everyone that is not exactly Muslim, even in the same branch of Islam that they wanted to, is evil
Did you
and has
learn?
to be punished.
Did you learn about? Is there propaganda against Sunnis, against Sunni Islam, a lot? And is
Yeah.
it more of a? Is it more like they are wrong, or is it more aggressive or more hostile, like that Sunnis are fake or evil or something like that? What is it
Oh,
like?
yeah. The narrative that is given to the public. Well, first of all, by the government, they are punished every day. They kill Sunnis in the southern part of Iran, the western part of Iran. There are Kurd Sunnis, there are Baluch Sunnis. They will get killed, they will get oppressed, they will get arrested every single day in Iran. That aside, the narrative that is given to a child is that these people used to be good people up until the time they stopped accepting Imam Ali and his descendants. So
Mhm.
after that, they just became this group of bad people that practice a different version of Islam, that think it's right, but is not. These are people that lost their ways and they are lost. And then every year I remember there was this on the day that um, was Omar died, anniversary of his death. They would throw these parties. They would throw parties and celebrate and sing this very like vulgar songs against him, for him, and basically just cursing him and Abu Bakr and Osman and like all of these people that Sunnis believe in because they were bad people. and they did wrong. They did Ali wrong, and this whole family of very, very poor, oppressed people. And yeah, but something that was funny was that my dad, he was against that. I very much remember that. And he would get into arguments with um, his peers about that. That, okay, right, they don't believe in the same thing that we believe, but they're Muslims. You cannot go around and curse other Muslims. Um, or like Ayesha, that is like this evil character for Shia Muslims, um, that really did the Prophet and um, his replacement wrong, like Ali wrong. You hear very vulgar songs about him, and my dad was always against it. Was like, why is she was the
Aisha. Yeah.
Prophet's wife.
Yeah.
Why are you saying that? Like, but this was very commonly practiced, and as a kid, you get indoctrinated by that, even against Sunni Muslims.
Yeah, it's very funny. I grew up in a very religious Sunni Muslim family, and although it was the main branches and the main like the Al Azhar Mosque, for example, they recognized the Shia as a legitimate branch of Islam. But in my family and among most religious proper families, Shia were not accepted as Muslims even, and they were in fact. I learned at times that Shia are even worse than Christians and Jews, because in a way, actually not worse than Jews, but worse than Christians at least, because
No one is worse than Jews. How dare you?
yeah, worse than Christians, because at least the Christians clearly identify themselves as non-Muslims, while the Shias pose as Muslims, but are totally corrupt and evil and all that. And on the other hand, I learned that the Shia think the same way about us, and they curse Aisha and Abu Bakr and Omar and all that. So seems to be some truth to that. But isn't it quite funny that while they have this attitude about Sunni Islam, right now in the conflict that is going on between Israel and Hamas, Iran is actively supporting Hamas, is actually the main source of support for Hamas, which is a Sunni Islamist organization. What?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
that's actually why it's more funny to us, to Iranians, because we know that as the majority Shia country, the Islamic Republic is not going to be an ally for Sunnis, not in any level. They have this beef with Saudi Arabia over who's going to be the leader of the Muslim world. Saudi Arabia is Sunni, they are Shia, but they definitely would create this fake alliance against Jews. But then when they gain the power, they're going to kill them too, because, well, they are Sunnis. They are not good people. And then about the comment you said about Shia, I actually have been receiving that a lot, especially on the post that I have about like being an ex-Muslim and my experiences and my views. They say, "Oh, you are not a real Muslim. That's not real Islam. No. You are evil. You are not real Muslim. You're fake because you're Shia. You're not Muslim. You're Shia."
I see that a lot, especially ex-Muslims who come from a Shia background are immediately disqualified as not real Muslims. You were Shia, of course you left Islam. Then it comes to people like me and other people who were Sunni Muslims, who were regular Sunni Muslims, and they find different excuses for us. Or I even heard people say to me that that I was actually a Shia Muslim, which is nonsense. I was never Shia. I was strict Sunni, but these divisions really help people to vilify and to just disqualify anything we say. It is it's rather embarrassing, actually. So you wore the hijab by
Yes.
Iranian rule. So let's talk about that a little bit. So, Iran is one of the few places left in today's time, in the 21st century, where there is still a strict enforcement of the hijab. And as a woman, you were not allowed to go outside officially without wearing the hijab, right?
Mhm. Yes. So it's the rule if you appear in public without hijab and authorities see you, they have the right to arrest you and take you, like you go to jail. You might get like really severe sentences depending on what you were wearing and things like that. How connected your family is to the government, obviously. That is also a thing. But yeah, that is the rule of law. You cannot appear in public without a job. So, like now, for that, there are apologists of Islamic Republic who are gonna show you photos of someone is this in this alley in like one of the streets of somewhere in Tehran that is not wearing hijab and is not arrested. Well, yeah, because they haven't seen her. If they see her, if you post a photo of them in on social media showing their face, they will get arrested the next day.
Mm-hmm.
Dancing in public, like all of these are against the law. And then they really enforce it in institutional scale. Like, for example, I told you about the dress code of our school, like elementary school, middle school, and high school. And then you get to college, there's this big campus. Well, in the school level, it's easy. It's a small building. You go in, well, they check you, how you look, and your appearance. But in a campus level, it's this huge campus. And it has these small doors. First of all, separate doors for men and women. And then as you go in as a woman, well, men also have their own criteria of their dress code, but for women, which is the topic of our interest for now, you go in, there's this woman wearing this hijab and this chador, abaya, black head to toe, and he's looking at you up and down, one by one. We go in, looks down. Oh, you are wearing we would wear this like long abayas, long dresses, let's say, that was covering our arms up to here, was supposed to cover our arms up to the wrist and then be under the knee, like as long it has to cover up to your knee. And if it's any shorter, oh, get out. You get kicked out. That day, you're not allowed into school until you go back home and change. Oh, you have nail polish. Get out. You're showing too much hair. Cover it. If you don't, get out. Like, these are all the things. This is everyday life. And then you get into subway. There is morality police standing there watching you head to toe. If you're not doing what they want you to do, you're not covering the way they like it, oh, you're arrested. And you see videos of it, and then they arrest. The arresting process is not like, oh yeah, let's go. We need to have a chat. No, no. They will drag you, humiliate you. If you resist, beat you up and throw you in a van, kidnap you, and then done. Boom.
Yeah, we have seen videos over time, over the years, of the most well-known one by now, right now, is of Masa Amini, who was during her arrest. I think there was a video of them forcing her into the vehicle and hitting her head against the top of the vehicle as well. You have footage of other people being put into these tiny little things behind the vehicles. We have reports of women being severely beaten and abused when they are being arrested. It seems like there is a lot of force used, especially against women, which is why the women's rights movement and the women's rights protests have become really, really popular and really strong. On a social level, as far as I have seen from the statistics, the people of Iran don't really support these obligatory hijab rules anymore. would you say that it's that in a regular on a regular day in Tehran, for example, would you say that the average person out there would be against the morality police enforcing the hijab on somebody, on a woman, or do you think they would be more like careless about it, or they would be even for it? What is your opinion?
No, no, the average person is against it
Hmm.
because I was I was from a community of these average people who were actually even practicing Muslims, and they did not believe in enforcing those rules like that or forcing people into doing things that they don't want to and enforce violence. No, they are not for it. There is this small minority of people that are mostly even connected to the government in some shape or form, in some level, that are for it. There is this group that is bigger than that minority that is careless, and there's this huge majority that is against it. But the
Hmm.
problem is that power is so centralized between this minority of people that are for it and this body of the government. And they have so much power that this huge majority gets suppressed the moment they speak up. Anyone who speaks up gets suppressed. And then they send their people like, they have their peoples among covering undercover people that are actually showing that they are against it, but their job is to go among this majority and report them, bring information um, to them, to authorities. They are in the West, they are in Iran, um, they have their branches around the world. Um, and those are the one that create distrust among people. Like you see, and I had a post recently about The Handmaid's Tale,
Okay.
which I would also like to talk about because there's this crazy narrative regarding that. There's crazy arguments about that, but um, you see on the show that people are scared of trusting each other
Hmm.
because of how the government rules and how operates. And that is going on in Iran among Iranians. Distrust because of the way the government works. You don't know if the person that you are not very familiar with is actually against the government and with you, or it's pretending to be to just gain some sort of information or basically do the propaganda job. It's working as a part of this propaganda machine of the Islamic Republic, the propaganda machine that has arms here in America.
Hmm. I remember in the history of Germany when Germany was divided between West Germany and East Germany, the German Democratic Republic, which was basically a Soviet communist puppet. There were lots of reports. There are lots of stories where people live there and are against the government, and they have a conversation with their neighbor about this whole issue. They open up about how the government is really treating them very poorly, and suddenly the next day the secret police is at the door and takes you for questioning and exposes you. So that's how bad it was. Like your neighbor can always be a spy for the government, and so many people are connected. It seems like there is a similar problem in Iran.
Yeah, I know of instances. I actually know one instance of the exact same thing. Someone who, in the beginning of the Islamic Republic after the revolution, opened up to their neighbor, and then later on was banned from going to school because it did not align well with the Islamic Republic values. It wasn't for them. It was against them. So they banned him from going to school. Just like that, just like the one you said. And that is going on up until today. Every day, you cannot really trust who's working for them, who's against them. And you see that on like Twitter, especially in X, like the Iranian community is talking about like some scholar in Iranian diaspora that is, oh, this man is an agent or it's an apologist of the Islamic Republic. Those are the people that are actually working as an informant for the government.
Oh, yeah, I see. How was your access to the internet, and to global, sources of information when you were inside Iran? So, as far as I understand, and as you also mentioned, there's a lot of censorship in Iran, and a lot of access being blocked to different social media platforms and messaging apps. But when you were inside Iran as a regular person, were you available to learn what's happening around the world and what people generally think and say on social media, or was your access generally restricted?
So right now, the way people access information is through VPN.
Oh, yeah.
Every platform we want to access any information is VPN. But another, like one of the very initial way of accessing to real information, because people don't really trust the state-run media and they don't really listen to whatever they're saying. It's just the government propaganda. One of the early ways of accessing information was through satellite.
Wow.
So through satellite channels, people would access this real information from outside world, whether were channels and news stations. There's Iranian channels that were based outside of Iran, and they would actually share real information about what's going on, and people would watch that. And because of that, the government had its forces sometimes randomly attacking a building, going there and throw all these satellite devices which was located on the rooftop, throw it down off the building, break them, just cut their access to these satellites. That's the very initial step. That was their initial step towards banning media. And then as the time went on, as they gained more access to the technology and they had their people that were actually tech savvy, they helped them to ban Twitter. And actually, at first, one of the very popular popular platforms was Telegram channel, which is not really very popular in America, but it was very popular in Iran because Paul Dobrov would not give access to any government, any state authorities. So there were these Telegram channels that would share real information, and people would read that. So Telegram was banned after a while. Twitter was banned. Facebook is banned. Instagram, as far as I am aware of, is banned, or at least was banned up to a certain point. So people still access those through VPN. But then you don't see people inside Iran being as vocal as we are on this media, not because they don't want to, because they will get tracked down and arrested immediately.
So I see over time, Iran has blocked over 5 million different websites. Routinely blocked are LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, VK, Reddit, Threads, Instagram, Twitch, sometimes YouTube, or in general, Vimeo, basically everything that is out there. Telegram,
Snapchat.
WhatsApp, Snapchat. Man, that's really, really messed up. So this is one of those issues with an authoritarian government like that, where they use the internet as they wish, as their own tool to shut it down and to restrict access and to also ban it altogether if they think it doesn't serve their values, or it harms the social cohesion, or it corrupts the population. They can always find an excuse for that. I'm aware of how things work in the Middle East, where you just accuse something of being corrupt, or of muddying the culture, and then you can immediately do anything you want against it. That's how it works,
Yeah.
right?
One of the most popular ways for the Islamic Republic is, oh, this is run by Jews. Israel, it's Mossad. It's all on Israel, mostly. 99% on Israel. And then the 1% is on America.
Let's talk about Jews in America. Iran has a big problem with Jews, or the Islamic Republic of Iran has a big problem with Jews. I'm often told by Iranians to please distinguish between Iran and the Islamic regime. So I'm trying to do that as long as I remember it.
Yeah, thank you for that.
But so the Islamic regime has a big problem with Jews, and I saw over the years, over the decades, so many, so many leaders in Iran, so many politicians, leading voices, authorities have repeatedly said very terrible things about Jews. But I assume that this is also part of the official indoctrination that you see in schools, on state television, and so on, right? How bad is it, the propaganda against Jews?
Okay, let me just give you an idea how bad it is. It's bad enough that up until a couple years ago, right after I moved to the States, I was a pro-Palestine. That's how bad it is. So growing up as a kid, every year, we have a religion course that we have to pass. This religion course is mainly like focused, just like how Quran is mainly focused on Jews. It's focused on Israeli Jews. Like, oh, look at these Israelites, like what they did, these terrible people, horrible people, just so stupid. Like, I remember I was in elementary school, and once I questioned it, I was like, well, we have this religion course and we study Quran mainly, and other religions as well a little bit, just like portraying this evil picture of all of them, mainly Jews. I asked my teacher that if you say Islam, like it's a separate religion and it's like all about this prophet and what he doesn't stop, why is the Quran is so focused on this small group of Jews just going around do things and like focus on just everything that they do, and then God sent thousand, yeah, 124,000 prophets. That is mostly for Jews, for Israelites. It's mostly for Israelites. Why is that? If Muslims are this group of, chosen people. She said, because Israelites and Jews are stupid. So they needed more direction. So God sent them more prophets because they just kept killing these prophets and they had to send more. And this was a sentiment given to a child, to a class of children, and these teachers that are trained by the government are basically feeding children this narrative. And then you grow up learning in your history class. First of all, we didn't learn anything about Holocaust. The first time I heard the word Holocaust was when the president of Iran, Ahmadinejad, denied Holocaust. That is when I heard the word Holocaust. We have a history lesson every year. We learned nothing about the killing of Jews, nothing about Hitler and World War, nothing about the killing of Jews. So you grew up learning how, like, Israel, like Jews went there. There was this beautiful country. They took over the land. They kicked all of the people out. And then they started oppressing people, just pushing them to certain areas, just imprison them, torture them, take over their monies, their resources. This is what we learn. And then every year they take people from organization, the governmental organization, because there is now independent organization in Iran. Everything
Mhm.
is a state run. So all these employees, government employees, all of these students, these children are taken to this annual march for Palestine. And then imagine being fed like all that at school, on the media, going there, just learning all that and growing up with all of these rage and anger for the people, not even about the religion. They're smart, they are evils, smart evils. They don't go from the religious angle, they go from the human angle. They will make you outraged for these poor humans. We don't care who they are. They are humans and they're being oppressed. They're being killed and tortured. So we should care about them. It's a human issue. So you grow up hating these people, having this very dark picture of what's going on, not knowing anything about the reality of what actually happened, what
Yeah.
actually went down.
I see that Ahmadinejad said on multiple occasions, he said many things, but he said today the Europeans, have created the myth of the Holocaust to cause division and to basically install their racist puppet in the Middle East to get more and more land. And they are helping the Jews with the Holocaust myth. He repeatedly said the same thing, like many other voices in Iran. The funny thing to me is, I checked some statistics earlier today and recently as well, anti-Semitism by country in the Middle East, and the polls show that Iran is the least anti-Semitic population in the Middle East. So, despite the fact that the government is really making it their ideology to be against Jews, openly against Jews, it looks like it doesn't really work very well in convincing their own population to hate Jews, right?
No, because the more you see this government and its people lie to you about everything, even things that you see with your own eye, then you start questioning, like, okay, they also told me that. Maybe that was wrong too. And then you do a little bit digging in and you say, oh, yeah, that was a lie too. So that is why. And mix that with the people of Iran not being willing to like not being accepting of Islamic values a lot and going against Islam, mixing that with all these lies and finding out how corrupt this government is, yeah, obviously, now they are very different with all these neighboring countries and how they operate. Just the population. I'm not talking about the government.
What about let's talk about America. So Iran has had a long-standing, the Islamic regime has had a long-standing hostility towards America, and some slogans like the Great Satan or the phrase "Death to America" have always been around and have been part of official Islamic regime policy. Have you heard these slogans a lot? And how much is the propaganda and the hate and the goal for the destruction of America part of Iranian society under the Islamic regime?
So growing up in a school, every morning we first all gather in lines in the backyard of the school, in the yard of the school, and the principal talks, and then they read some verses of Quran for the people, and then as a part of the morning ritual, they chant death to Israel, death to America. These are the main two things. If they want to go way too far, they also say death to England. That is also one part of it. But these two are the most popular one: death to Israel and death to America. And yeah, throughout, like, you learn since very early age, the problem of the world is Israel and America. Now has been just a little bit shifted towards mostly Israel.
Mhm.
Back then when I was growing up, it was Israel and America, both. But yeah, it's just this evil imperialist, this racist evils that are trying to take over the world, and they want to just colonize us. They want to oppress us, and we are the good people who are fighting for your freedom. And if we are not there, they're going to take over and they're going to oppress you, just like how they did to Palestinians, just like how America did to other nations in the world. They are going to oppress you if we go away. So we are your savior. We are saving you and we are protecting you against these evils.
It says a lot about a government or about a regime if they put so much emphasis on demonizing and depicting other forces as the enemy instead of focusing on the good values they themselves have. It how does it go in Iranian? Mark Bar America, is that how you say it?
Yeah,
Death to America.
Mark Bar America. Yeah.
Yeah, Mark Bar America. Yeah, and Israel and Khamenei recently, as recently as several years ago, I think he said that that death to America is not just an idea; it is official policy. It is our official policy, and we will pursue it. So, death to America, death to Israel, and so on. It's it's very wild that this is what you get taught. But you said you repeat this even in school. From very early age. So,
Yes.
how old were you when you first? It's hard to pinpoint, but do you learn this as soon as you start school, or when does that start?
Yes. Yes. So, first of all, on TV, you see after each Khamenei's speech, people chant death to America, death to Israel, death to England. That is their way of like, hooray! That is their way of like cheering for him. You see that from very early age, as soon as you have an understanding of the world around you. And then when you go to school, they make you practice it now. They make you do it. And then they make this whole narrative of our goal in life should be fighting with evil. And who's evil? Is America, is Israel, Jews. Well, they don't say Jews, but then the more you like go in depth of their indoctrination, you understand, the problem was not Israel. The problem is always Jews in general, wherever they are. Yeah, and then America. And you see how successful they've been. We see these stupid kids in America chanting the same thing: death to America, death to Israel. And then the supreme leader of Iran sends them heartwarming messages, thanking them. Yeah.
And we also see from Iran's proxies. You have the Houthis, that is an Iranian proxy fighting in Yemen. Then you have Hezbollah, that is an Iranian proxy in Lebanon, mostly in Lebanon. But both of them, but especially the Houthis, they have it officially on their slogan. It says, death to America, death to Israel, curse the Jews. That's what their slogan officially says. Hezbollah has repeatedly, I think they have a slogan, but they have also repeatedly vowed to curse the Jews and destroy Israel and all that. Hamas is now their latest puppet, which they want to use in this whole vacuum. Hamas is openly anti-Jewish, openly against Jews, and their leaders and spokespeople have repeatedly in Arabic to their own people of course not in English, not on important speeches, but in Arabic to their own people, have repeatedly said that their aim is to destroy the Jews and cleanse Palestine of the filth of Jews and things like that. So this is how they operate. And yet you are right. We have people in the West, especially leftists, who pick up this whole narrative that these guys are just fighting oppression, and they are actually joining them without understanding what they're doing and repeating their phrases. How does that make you feel?
Oh my God. That is the most insane thing I've seen in my life. And nothing really irritates me more than talking to these people, more than arguing with them. Because, well, with Khamenei and their supporters and like all of these groups, you know who you're dealing with. You have very opposite standpoints and you know it. These people, however, they claim to be advocating for all of these moral values, fighting for people's freedom, siding with the oppressed. And then now we see that they are the ones standing with a population that practices to this day slavery, second class citizenship of at least women. Let's say you don't even want to accept anything else. You see it in front of your eyes how they treat women. You see women have zero autonomy over their body or their life in Muslim populations. How on earth are you justifying that? How on earth are you trying to suppress and silence people like me by made up labels like Islamophobia or racism? Just me. You are coming from the same community. Like, we've seen it with our own eyes. How on earth are you claiming to be advocating for all of these values for women's right, minorities' right, LGBTQ people's right, and then siding with these people that are actual evil? And I'm not even talking about like the entire Muslim population, even though I have arguments showing that they are also having their own parts in this, even the population of moderate Muslims.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about the Islamists, these extremist Muslims that are just destroying every single liberal and democratic value. They don't align with anything, and you're siding with them. Just, you see how they like enslave people and women, people including women, and you're still just claiming to be this freedom fighter siding with this evils.
It's so absurd because if these Islamists that they are supporting and standing with somehow in some scenario came and took over the West, these leftist supporters of them would be the first to suffer and to be punished.
Exactly. Oh, they will be killed. They will be killed. You want to be a secular under Islamist ruling? You will be killed. You will be hanged. Um, and I don't believe actually not that all of them don't understand what they're doing. I believe some of them actually understand what they are doing because that's what we've seen in Iran. And the revolution in 1979 that happened in Iran was the result of this alliance between Marxists, communists, and Islamists. They just came together hoping that after toppling this ruling body, the Shah Pahlavi dynasty, they'll be able to gain control and power at least partially, if not all of it. And any one of these groups was hoping for taking over the other, or at best having some parts of the power. And then after Islamists took the power, they killed them all.
Yeah.
They killed over 5,000 communists in 1989. And who was the death committee sending these death sentences? Raisi, the former president of Iran who died a couple
In
of
a
weeks ago.
helicopter, which was very funny. Yeah.
Yeah, that great
Which,
helicopter.
yeah,
Wow, that would be part of our history, that
yeah.
helicopter.
People say it was an Israeli pilot named Helicopter, who.
That actually, that might be something they want to use. But recently, one thing they've been trying to avoid because, well, for so long, they would blame everything on Israel and Mossad, right? After a while, people came out saying, oh, okay, if you are saying Mossad has so much power and influence in Iran to be able to do all of these things, then what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Then they were like, oh, yeah, that's right. So now we just try denying anything that happens.
Yeah.
Like Israel striked on some of their bases, their Air Force bases. They denied it. They
Yeah.
denied anything happened. They were like, oh, no, that was some sort of accident because of, electricity and this just blew up. Nothing big deal. There was no foreign hand in it. It was all fine. This is their new approach of like denying anything that happens.
Yeah,
So
meanwhile,
helicopter.
thanks to Helicopter. Meanwhile, they fired at Israel, and over 95% of whatever they fired never even reached Israeli ground. It failed. Much of it failed. Others was intercepted, but the regime claimed that it was a very successful and massive strike, teaching the Zionists a lesson. So stupid.
Because you know why? The way they operate, they know that military-wise, they can never face Israel or America or
Mhm.
both. So they've invested so much, billions of dollars in this propaganda machine. Al Jazeera, all of their scholars in America and around the Europe, all of their journalists, they've invested so much in that. And it's all about the image, an image of fake victory. Just like how Hamas is doing now, like, oh, we won the war. We are winning the war. After all of everything that we've seen happening, they are winning the war suddenly. Why? Because it's all about propaganda. It's all about showing something else to the world. And we see, I would not believe it if I didn't see it with my own eyes, how it's actually working on people, an average population of here in America. Oh, these freedom fighters are winning. What are they winning here?
It's I don't even understand one aspect, which is how did it even happen that during the Islamic Revolution or during the fight against the Shah, that the communists and socialists actually aligned themselves with the Islamists and hoped to achieve something. It strikes me as so it looks like that it looks like the communists and socialists and these hard leftist strains tend to be just very stupid and not see where it's all going to end up. But I understand why leftists who are ignorant don't know what they're doing in the West. But in Iran, communists actually worked together with Khomeini's Islamist movement and hoped to achieve something good. Then they together overthrew the monarchy, the government, and then they all got killed and expelled. What were they thinking? I don't even get it.
Their hate for this monarchy, and right now you can see the equivalence between the monarchy and like America and generally Western civilization because they practice the same values. Their hate for them was so strong, so much stronger than their opposition with some of the values that this group of Islamists had. And also, these Islamists were really good at tricking people.
Yeah.
They were really, really good at deceiving these groups, saying that, hey, We are all about Islamic values. If you promise that you let us do whatever we want to do in terms of like religion, not power, we don't want power. You can have the power. We just want to do our thing here, just to recover these Islamic values. If you promise us that, we will work with you. And they saw that they cannot do every one of them by their own, so they decided to be like, okay, it's a deal. Let's do it. Even though they knew all along that they would butt heads and they would not agree on something, some stuff, but they decided to collaborate together. Like Khomeini um, worked with the head of Mujahideen, which is this MEK terrorists that did a lot of military operations. Um, they worked together even though they knew that they're not sharing the same value. You see it in like everything that was narrated by the people around Khomeini, that how he was not like all about them, but worked with them very much.
That's such a delusion, such a delusion. What is your how do you see the future of Iran? What do you think is going to happen? Do you think the Islamic regime in Iran has a future, or do you genuinely believe it is coming to an end, which is why they are acting the way they are acting right now? What do you generally think about the future of Iran?
I think they are coming to an end because we've seen throughout history that none of these dictators, none of these dictator governments remain in power. Sooner or later, they collapse, they get destroyed. We see it with Soviet Union, we saw it with all these governments and all of these dynasties, like before Islamic Republic, like Qajar, and all of those dynasties. We see it in different countries around the world. They're not going to stay. So they will collapse eventually. But the thing is, who's going to replace them? Who's going to take the power next? And how long? Like, because the more it takes, the damage that will be done is more and bad, and it will take longer for the country to recover from it. So that is now the point. And I'm honestly not hopeful with what's going on in America and generally Western countries. I mean, yeah, I hated to like generalize to say like all factions of this Western society is doing horrible and it's going to collapse. No, but the dominant narrative and the dominant group is going crazy. And that was exactly what happened in Iran. Like, okay, you have a stronger foundations. Like America has this strong constitution and everything going on. Okay, but how long do you think that's gonna hold it together? And that's not gonna collapse. Like, if you keep empowering these groups, they're gonna make this revolution that you think is not gonna happen because, oh, well, Islamists are a minority in America. They will make it happen by your own hands, by leftists, by Democrats, by all of these different groups. You'll brainwash them at best or deceive them into making that revolution and that collapse happen from within, not from outside influence, from within. That's how they are doing. That's how they are operating.
Europe seems really
Um,
bad right now. UK seems really bad. There's enough power within to start messing things up really, really badly, and people are not really paying attention to this. So, as an ex-Muslim and a woman who was born in and grew up in the Islamic Republic, the Islamic regime of Iran, what do you really want to say to people in the West?
Let me see which one is less harsh because what I want to say, honestly, is just don't be stupid.
Yeah.
Don't think these people share the same values as yours. They do not. And they don't mess around. They don't worry about inclusivity and diversity and all of these things that you are practicing and trying to like include these people under the name of inclusivity and diversity. They don't care about that. Once they gain power, gone. You're all gone. Everything about your values will be gone right out of the window. And if you see that happening, like you see in like a very small scale happening in Europe, is because of the physical distance with all of these Muslim societies, but it will get to America as well. So don't you ever think it's far from happening, and just you better wake up before things go down and before it's too late, because none of these countries that you see in the Middle East used to be like that. Iran used to be a democratic country, used to practice all of these moral values, all the women rights, all of these movements way before America. Women in Iran had the right to vote before America. They used to be great countries. Afghanistan used to be a good country, but they all went down. How long do you think yours will take to get down?
Even the great rival of Iran, Saudi Arabia, up until the 1970s, 1980s, it wasn't really that badly Islamic. It was forced to change into a hardcore Islamist country. So all of this whole revivalism by these Islamist movements who thought we have been suppressed, we haven't been properly represented, and now let's take over and force everyone to follow our way. These currents, they exist throughout the Muslim world, and as you import them and dismiss all the concerns that people raise about them, you will also turn yourselves into victims of those Islamist currents. And everyone needs to understand that. As you said, you pointed out something interesting, something good, something important, which is that that these societies, like the Islamists in Iran and others, they don't care about your inclusivity and this and that and tolerance. They don't care about any of that. If you talked like that in an Islamist society, you would be lynched or killed or hanged from a crane or something. So
if they don't do it here, it's because they don't have the power yet. Once they
yeah,
get the power, they're gonna hang you. They don't mess around. It's not anything like you've seen, because they haven't experienced that, they haven't seen it. They cannot even imagine the extent of violence and oppression and just savagery that these Islamists can bring into their society. They cannot imagine that.
have you ever been
And
to a
it
public
is very
execution?
dangerous. I haven't been to, because my parents never liked that. But it was shown on national TV. It used to be, at least. Not in recent years, but when I was a kid, it used to be just play on national TV. Public execution, it was a thing. It is still a thing, but it's not on national TV. That's the thing. And one thing I really like to say, this has been a recent argument. Been arguing a lot with people on my Twitter account. They say, why are you so focused on Islamists and Islam? That's not the only danger. The main danger in America is Christianity, like the extremist Christians, all of these. These are the ones that are going to turn America into a handmaid's tale. These are the real dangers in Western societies. Not only it's laughable and ridiculous, it's just that, okay, yes, extremists from any religion, any belief share some similarities with the Islamists, but right now in the world, most terrorist groups are Islamist fundamentalists. Like, what are you talking about? This is the danger right now in the current moment. And second of all, I am no religion scholar. I'm talking about my lived experiences, what I've seen, what I've experienced, and what I know. I know about Islam. I studied Islam. I used to read 10 pages of Quran every night before going to bed. I read interpretations. I studied this religion and I lived it. So I talk about it. I talk about what I know. You want to talk about Christianity and their extremists? Go on, be my guest. I'm not going to be the one to talk about that. So it's
Yeah.
ridiculous when you say, oh, why are you not talking about the extremist Jews and extremist Christians? Because I haven't been one and I don't know enough about it. You talk about it if you know. I'm not.
You're in America now. You've been here for quite a while, for a few years at least. You would agree with me, right? When I say when these people in the West, in America, and in Western societies, when they talk about extremist Christians and all that, it's laughable to me. I want to just laugh about it because it's nothing at all compared to average Islam.
They think it's comparable. They think it's comparable. That is like something okay. Islam, I'm not even gonna say Muslims because not all Muslims practice the instructions of Islam exactly. Some Muslims, including the community that I grew up in, they had their made up instructions. It was very like reformed version of Quran and Islam, and yeah, pedophilia is bad and all that. But the true instructions of Islam and what Islam practices is one of them is like the most sensible one for them, for these Westerners, that they should know better and they should know that it's bad, is pedophilia. This book, this religion practices pedophilia. Yes, not all Muslims practice that, but the religion by itself, the ideology that we talk about, it practices that and it encourages that. It allows that. What are you even talking about? Like, how is that even comparable to what you're saying about Christianity? Oh, yeah, there are priests that are pedophiles. Well, yeah, and if they get arrested, they will be punished accordingly.
Mhm.
But Islam, that is okay. That's okay. They just, if they find out that someone is like doing appropriate things to child, so they say, okay, yeah, marry them. If they are
Yeah,
girls, marry them.
yeah.
It's
At least
fine.
honor it and marry them. That's the way.
Hmm.
That's the right way.
Yeah, marry your rapist. They say to women, if you got raped, marry your rapist, and it will be fine.
Yeah.
You will be forgiven by God, as if someone who's been raped is a criminal or is a sinner.
Then we have, of course, the whole beating women, treating them as belongings, taking more of them if possible, in a state of war, abducting women and using them for sex when you have captives of war, which is also something that certain elements within Hamas have recently tried to practice, and they have sexually assaulted Israelis that they attacked and so on. Islam is just not something to stand with and something to protect. People should be smarter and better than that. And
Yeah.
listen to ex-Muslims and their experiences.
It's a
That's what,
cult.
yeah.
It has every element of a cult. Look it up. What are the signs of a cult? Islam is a cult.
Yeah.
You leave Islam, you get prosecuted, you will be sentenced to death if they catch you. You disrespect the leaders, disrespect the prophet, you will get killed. This is a cult. It's not a religion. It's not a moral system that you want to protect and you want to include. No, it's not that.
No. It is absolutely terrible. I really like this conversation. I want to do even more and talk about more things because there's a lot that I'm still curious about, and I think you have good takes about things that we can discuss further. So you're always welcome to be back and to join me for more conversations on this channel, and maybe we can record some other things as well on the side to inform more people. But for now, thank you so much, Sana. By the way, I'm not really doing a great job at giving people shout outs and advertising, but you are mainly on Twitter or X,
Twitter, yes.
and where
Mhm.
people can find you with your handle. Hold on a second. I'll put this on the screen. Where people can follow you right here if they
Mhm.
want to hear more from you. You have a very interesting account that I really like.
Thank you.
Sana Ebrahimi. You can find Sana right here on Twitter or X. Very active and very good takes. You have personally become one of my favorite accounts recently, actually, during
Thank
this
you so
whole.
much. You as well. I follow your content closely. I used to follow you even before you follow me, so I'm very
Yeah,
well aware of your content and I really like it. I always enjoy talking about Islam and my experiences with it and the Islamic Republic and everything surrounding that. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk more about it, talk about things that I usually haven't talked about on my Twitter. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. Thank you. Hopefully
fantastic.
we'll do more of these in the
We will
future.
we will definitely do more. I really like this. So thank you so much, Sana, for joining.
Thank you.
Um, thanks everyone for watching. I will be back. We will see each other again, and hopefully also have Sana here again with us. Um, for now, have a fantastic day, and as always, stay away from Islam.